mistaken, this is the fourth in our workshop series. This is a project funded by the government to look into how we can make good use of the Belt and Road Initiative and try to promote the construction industry and to encourage our construction professionals to have the capacity building, okay, when they work in other countries. Let me say a few words about Boris. I know him maybe around 7 or 8 years ago when I first met him in Beijing. He was doing his postdoctoral research fellow at Tsinghua University, and had some part-time, I'll say, guest lecture to give. So I met him, and I think I play a small role in introducing him to the Hong Kong construction industry. So after a few years working in Beijing, he came to Hong Kong about 4 years ago, started working in garment construction. And maybe you want me to say a few words about, I just heard from him.
Yeah,
he's now very settled in the, this environment, and he even started his own business with his wife. He may want to say a few words about the new venture himself. But I think he has this shining example of someone come from a Russian background, ventured himself to Beijing, which is very different, and then he came to Hong Kong, again it's very different. I think his experience about Russian, about Beijing, about Hong Kong, and about different places, how the construction projects were conducted in different places will be very useful. So without further ado, let's welcome Boris. Thank you very much for spending your valuable time to give a presentation here. Now I have to leave because I have a video conference with a friend in Germany. So all the best.
Okay.
I will find you another time to maybe have lunch or dinner together.
No problem.
Okay. Thank you very much. I take this as given. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you so much for coming to my lecture. And I don't need any further introduction, right? So let's move straight to the topic. So just very briefly, as Professor Shen mentioned, I got PhD back in Russia in 2010, and I was doing my research about influence of heavy traffic loads on underground pipelines and like soil structure interactions, so very technical one. And after that, I was lucky to get a postdoctoral position at Tsinghua University in Beijing, and after that, I was working as a lecturer as well. Continue to do research in area of underground construction, so this is my small research team with a PhD and master students. And in 2015, I decided that working for the industry is going to be more fun and more challenging than for university, so I moved to Hong Kong and joined garment construction, and I was involved in many interesting projects here in Hong Kong, and some of them got innovation awards. For example, this is Murray Building Hotel development. In this project, actually, I was one of the first engineers to do the design for DFMA models, right, which were prefabricated and installed in the building. And we as a company, we got a creativity grant award from Hong Kong Awards for Industries. And I also was involved in the implementation of some new technologies to Hong Kong construction market. For example, facade installation robot, right? So this is traditional way how the panels are installed, very labor intensive, very dangerous because you lift heavy panels above the people which can be dropped. Many people staying at the edge of the building, balancing with a heavy panel. So this is the robot itself, which we used on the same project, Murray Building. So this robot basically installs the panel from the outside of the building. It's much safer, it requires only 2 people, and it's faster as well. So after that, I was involved in many projects in Hong Kong, working with professionals from different countries. So this one is West Kowloon train terminus, basically just next to a wonderful university where I worked, because it was Leighton Gammon joint venture. So for Leighton is a company from Australia, so I worked with many like Australian and New Zealand colleagues here. And when the project was completed, I was working for Hong Kong Macau Zhuhai Bridge for 2 years. And this project, with my colleagues, we were involved in design and manufacturing of K-frame. So it's segments lifting installation device, right? And we also got construction industry innovation award for this frame. So this is a brief introduction, how it works. So basically you have a pier of the bridge, you have several segments pre-installed, and you have 2 frames lifting simultaneously and installing the segments, right? So it's also speeded up the construction process and make it quite safe as well. And for Hong Kong Macau Zhuhai Bridge, I was working with the colleagues from Freycinet, so there were many French people because this company come from France, right? And many of them actually, their previous project was in Russia, so they can speak a little bit of Russian and like, I'm too hungry, where to get the food, and this kind of thing. Thank you very much, but I really appreciate that working with French people. They are very open-minded and they not afraid to try like new things and doing something what is like out of the box. That's why I think it's the reason why, for example, French companies on construction market overall they are expanding their business very rapidly. Maybe 10 years ago it's mostly companies from UK who were doing project out abroad, but now more French companies actually working worldwide. And in my lecture I'm going to introduce several big infrastructure projects which were built in Russia, right? The first one is going to be the venue for Winter Olympic Games in Sochi. Overall the budget was like $50 billion and many venues were built. The second part of the presentation will be about Moscow city, so it's similar to Central with a lot of high-rise building. It's like a business area where it used to be like old industrial plant before, and also light infrastructure project. It's $50 billion project for gas pipelines from Siberia to China for delivery of the gas. So as you know, these games were held in 2014, right? And it was first Winter Games in Russia. Previously, Soviet Union only hosted Summer Games in 1980s, right? And the most important that all venues for these games, right, were new and were like purposely built. So basically here is Moscow, right? So it's south of Russia, next to Black Sea. I used to go to have like summer holidays when I used to be a student myself. So very nice and relaxing place. That's actually the thing about Russia, because the country is so big. You have so much like variety of the climates, of the geographical landscape. Because when I have like my Chinese friends like asking me, oh Boris, where you come from? And I always make a joke with them like, oh, my country is next to Germany and Poland, and they start, okay, maybe you're from France, maybe you're from Italy, like, and after that, by the way, my country is also next to Japan, and like, everyone gets stuck, what is that? so that's why, like, if you are like working in Russia or doing business in Russia, it could be like from the weather like in Hong Kong, which is very hot and humid, to something like permafrost, always snow everywhere, especially if you are speaking like Siberia place. So for this project we have 2 clusters. One is coastal one, next to the sea, right? And one is a mountain one. And especially for the Olympic Games, right? A lot of new hotels were built for the residents. And this is the main stadium, Fish Stadium. And actually a lot of the venue and infrastructure projects which were built for Olympic Games. They were used in summer last year for FIFA World Football Cup. So basically, on this stadium, for example, there were some important games, for example, when Spain was playing with Portugal, when Uruguay beat Portugal, so Ronaldo was out of World Cup on this stadium. So basically, a lot of these sport venues were used last summer as well. So, and the shape of the stadium, or the shape of the roof of the stadium is kind of resembles the snowy peak, and also you can have like a sea view as well, because it's next to the sea. And in Russia, a lot of new venues which are built, right, they're trying to like resemble Russian spirit and Russian culture in some way, right? We have Bolshoi Theater in Moscow. So for Winter Games, we also have Bolshoi Ice Palace, right? Which was the 12,000 seats venue for holding ice hockey game. And here is some images during the construction. And because Russia is such a big, vast country, I think the main challenges is about logistics and delivery of the materials. It was because the country is so huge. And you see, another challenge is when you build something for Olympic Games, right? If it's like a normal project, okay, you can delay it like for 1 year, you can delay it for 2 years, you can delay it for 3 years, whatever. But for the Winter Games, right, you have like deadline which you have to meet. So that's why this is the photo of the Olympic Park like in 2010, right? So many projects, they are only like in foundation, excavation stage. Still there is like a village here. And 1 year later, you can see the progress, right? Basically, all main projects, they are already close to completion. The superstructure is completed. So that's why working on Olympic project, we have a very big pressure for the project management team in order to meet the construction deadlines.
The city of Sochi is preparing to host the 2014 Winter Olympics. The Olympic Games always require large-scale infrastructure projects, which often transform and enhance the venue, and Sochi is no exception. The transport infrastructure here is being built by the Russian Railways Company. The route from Adler to Krasnaya Polyana will be the main access linking the Olympic City and its settlements. The engineers will have the difficult task of building the railway through mountains and hills and constructing 6 tunnels. About 50 kilometers of railway will connect a new airport terminal to a mountain resort. 6 pairs of electric trains will carry passengers from one end to the other within 30 minutes. The estimated capacity will reach 8,500 passengers an hour. The construction process has already begun. Since 2008, the works have been carried out according to schedule, and there are no doubts that we will meet the 2013 deadline, a year prior to the Olympics. The construction work in the mountains is always a challenge, but in our case, besides strict deadlines, there are also 4 key restrictions: strict safety measures, strict comfort conditions, strict environmental control, and of course, strict budget control. All these requirements are being met. Safety is a matter of crucial importance. Here's one example: railway traffic control. Apart from traditional procedures, train services will operate using the GLONASS satellite navigation system. The train moves without stops, which means effective passenger control. The Space-In trains, designed by the Bombardier Company, are specially designed trains for the project. The comfort and convenience for passengers, including those with limited mobility, are among the major priorities. The environmental issue is also important, as the railway will run through a national nature reserve. Special noise reduction techniques will be enforced here. Road crossings for safe animal passage will also be built. Of course, the trains are electric, the most ecological ones. The Olympic Games are sure to be an outstanding sporting event. And the investment now will create a legacy that will bring great benefit to the future.
And overall, right, just to show the scale of the construction for the Olympic Games, this is the electricity or power demand, right, for the city prior to Olympic. And Olympic infrastructure essentially requires nearly the same. So basically you need to double your power generation capacity just to satisfy the Olympic infrastructure. And during the preparation for the Games, we have 15 modern sport venues built and also hotels for 10,000 guests. And this is another large-scale project in Moscow this time. So this area used to be the old industrial place, similar to Kwun Tong, for example, in Hong Kong, right? And it was for the last 15 years, it was changed to Moscow International Business Center. And let me describe the key features of this area, right? So now currently around 300,000 people are working and living in this area. And as you can see, actually the subway station was built, shopping mall, exhibition center, and around 15 towers with different heights. And let me go through some main buildings in this area, right? City of Capitals, actually these towers were designed by Arab. And this tower represents Moscow, and this one represents St. Petersburg, because in Russia we used to say that we have like two capitals, because previously St. Petersburg used to be a capital. It was like this. Moscow used to be a capital. After that it was transferred to St. Petersburg, and after that it was transferred to Moscow again. So we're making a joke that we have two capitals. So that's why we have City of Capitals for this tower. And it's $500 million project. And this one is now the tallest building in Europe, and nowadays there is, I think, in this tower on one of the finals level, it's like the tallest restaurant in Europe on a height of 320 meters, something like this. And for this building I'm going to say a little bit more, right? So similar, we have two buildings staying next to each other, and one tower represents Asia and one tower represents Europe, because Russia is a very long country, so we have European part of Russia and Asian part of Russia, right? And because Asian part is much bigger, so Asia tower is also like higher proportional, let's put it this way. And this is the cross section of the building, right? And I want to show on this slide that many international companies which are leading experts in their particular area were working on this project in Russia, right? For example, structural engineer is Torres and Tomasetti from New York. We have German companies and mechanical engineer. We have Turkish company for the foundation, right? Chinese company, China State, for the superstructure as well, and even company from Shenyang for the facade installation works. So you can see, because Russia is kind of in the middle between Europe and Asia, so we also have like a mix of Asian and European companies working on large-scale infrastructure projects or building projects. So for example, this is a colleagues from Shenyang for facade company.